This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Village of Ashwaubenon Finance and Personnel Committee for Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Chris Circle.
Here.
Tracy Flukie. Here. Kelly Service. Here. And Tom Shaw.
Here. Please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let's please keep in thoughts our brave men and women that are helping to protect us here and abroad. Action on the agenda.
Motion approved.
Second.
In a motion is in a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. 4, action on the agenda. I just did that. All right. 5, action on the minutes. Consider, discuss, act on October 17th, November 14th, joint Village Board Finance and Personnel minutes.
So moved.
Move to approve. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Action items. Consider, discuss, and act on position description of heavy equipment operator.
Yeah, so I'll introduce it, and Brian Rickard, our Public Works Director, can certainly provide some additional context to the conversation. If you're not aware, typically what we do after we've updated all of our job descriptions is we review those job descriptions annually, either through the employee performance review process or just internally within operation and leadership staff within each department. Through that review effort, it was identified that we have an opportunity to create a position in Public Works titled Heavy Equipment Operator. What we would be doing is not looking to hire an additional staff person. This would not be like an open internal promotional opportunity. Where this conversation stemmed from is that we have an individual actually performing these duties as Heavy Equipment Operator. They are predominantly the sole person doing these types of activities, and their job should be reflected in the job description when we reviewed their performance and work. So it was brought to my attention that they have an individual that is kind of performing the work as described in the draft job description, and that they're asking for the formalization of that through that effort. When we create a job description or a formal position, and it gets approved, then ultimately we have to incorporate that position into the salary and wage matrix. The position is assigned a specific grade based on a variety of factors from education, experience requirements, job knowledge, their interaction with others, the technical capabilities or responsibilities of the position, and they're ultimately given a score. The individual that is currently working in that role without the approved job description is currently working as a Public Works Field Operator 2. That position is classified as a grade 5 position. The Heavy Equipment Operator, based on the job description, would be a grade 6 position. So it would be looked at as kind of more of a promotional opportunity, which is realistic in the essence that a field operator we view as kind of a semi-skilled role. Yeah, you will get involved in skilled type work, but it's not necessarily a routine function of the job. As the heavy equipment operator, you're utilizing specialized equipment that not everyone within the department is using, oftentimes requiring specialized training or certification, and so we view that more as a skilled position, and so that differentiation between a grade 5 and 6 is appropriate. So the draft job description was crafted by Brian and his staff, Lee Van Nelson, the street operations supervisor. This again is not creating a new person from a headcount standpoint. It's basically creating the job that somebody is currently doing and then matching that person specifically to the job description. It would result in that particular individual moving from grade 5 to grade 6, because we're basically applying them into the higher graded position. When we do that, meaning an individual's position didn't get reclassified, but a new position has been created and they advance into that higher graded position, they ascend basically to the next highest grade to their current pay rate. So I'll give you another scenario. This particular individual, I believe, is currently at grade 5, step 15, which is the highest step an individual can obtain in any grade. When they advance to the next position, they go to grade 6, but they move back to step 14, ultimately giving them further longitude, if you will, on the pay scale because they have a higher degree of responsibility. In the memorandum, what you have in front of you is an example. So if you look at the base wage, the overall base wage difference is about 97 cents an hour between a grade 5 and a grade 6. That would not be the full value of what this individual would receive with that type of promotion. That is it's converse to what I'm saying. So the value that this person would receive by advancing one grade but stepping back one step would be 57 cents an hour, not the full 97 cents, because that's based on the base wage, okay? So that $2,000 is not accurate. It's much less than that for that specific individual. I put that in there as an example primarily because if that position were to be vacated, retirement, resignation, and we had to repost the position, that's the difference between the two, a field operator 2 versus a field operator 1. So again, with that, this is for committee's review and consideration. Today's motion would be a recommendation to approve the position description. It would then go to village board next week for consideration. If approved by the village board, the position would then be available for that person to be advanced to, and there would be an effective date assigned to that person for that advancement. With that, I'll answer any questions that you have, and I think Brian can add any direct context to the position, the work, the tasks, the skill sets, so on and so forth.
I noticed that the essential knowledge, skills, and ability, it says, excuse me, must establish permanent residence within 15 miles of the incorporated boundaries of the village. Is that a village-wide or?
So there's two factors to this. Under Wisconsin statutory law, a municipality can only enact a residency requirement as strict as what that states for any of its employees. The village, under policy, has elected to enact that provision within statutes for what it deems emergency personnel. So snowplow operators, public safety officers, so on and so forth.
You want them as close as you can get.
Yep. You can't make him or her be any closer than that. So this is as close as we're going to get. We're going to require it for anyone that we deem emergency personnel.
That's not unique to this job description, is it? Okay.
All of our field operators, whether they're in the utilities, public works, they're all considered or deemed emergency personnel because they have snow plowing operations, water or sewer service requirements. Public safety officers are all within that. Myself, I'm included in that. And Brian is as well, because if there's an emergency situation, we have to activate the emergency operations center. We all have to be responsive within a time frame to get there and activate the response.
I'll make a motion to approve the base wages for public works field operator promotions to heavy equipment operator grade 5 to 6.
I'll second it, but can I ask a question?
I'm sorry.
Do they require CDL for this position, and is there any other certifications they have to have, like to operate a skid loader or a grader or whatever?
No, so it will require a Class B CDL. There is no requirements for any individuals to have a special certification to operate anything like that. There really is only one piece of equipment that's usually a forklift or a crane, which we don't own, that will come with a certification. But when it comes to excavator, skid loader, stuff like that, you can get certified through third parties, but there's nothing that like a state requirement.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, anything else? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. B, consider discuss act recommending hourly pay rates for election inspectors. Oh, I forgot. Is there a reason we didn't have the public comments in here?
Committee outside of planning commission, I don't think we've generally had. Or we
Have we had?
haven't.
Oh, you mean the comments from the
From the
public must
public,
be
yeah.
limited to
Yeah.
whatever? It is on the earlier agendas, maybe
Oh,
it's just
okay.
not on that.
Okay.
So like, it was item 6
I
on
think we've
the,
been trying to think like.
Oh, yeah, it should be on there.
Maybe we have had it on, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not on today's agenda,
But if
it's
it's
not
on that
required by
one,
law,
but it's not.
so
I can
we
be-
don't have to do it if we don't want to.
It's not required by law.
It's not required.
you can read it off mine if you want.
Oh, no.
Guys are good.
So it's okay to skip
Something's
it.
missing.
All right,
Alright.
look at that, I'm not sure why that wouldn't have been in
I don't know
there,
either.
as our template would have.
It's not on mine either.
It's on I'm on the, I think, I must still be on an earlier version without the election thing on it, and it is on there. It's item 6 on that one.
I don't know why I would have taken that off.
Oh, man, I guess Terry,
Well, I
There's
could
talk
have,
about peak again.
just taking things
I'm
off.
sure it's not operator here,
Oh.
so
I'll make
It
sure
is
it's
not
back
on the
while
official
it's on
posting
that.
agenda, so we're good not to cover it.
Okay.
We don't have to do it
All
by
right.
law.
Okay.
All right, moving on then, election inspector wages, this is being presented to you. This item was included in the 2024 budget, so the budget that was approved by the village incorporates a $2 per hour increase in wages for our election inspectors, poll workers, if you will. We hadn't previously included that in our seasonal, summer, and LTE wage scale. So I have done that so that way, when we do go through it and update wages, it's done at a singular time. These wages, again, are an increase of $2. So inspector training moves from $8 to $10 per hour. So that's all inspectors, chief or non-chief. When they come in for training, which they are required to do, so many hours, I think it's 3 per biennium or something to that effect. They get their training dollars, and then when they actually work the polls, they get a different wage. So training is $10 per hour. The election inspectors, these are all your general poll workers, they're moving to $11 per hour. We have what's called an alternate chief. They will be paid $12 per hour, and then the chief inspector is $13. Generally speaking, each polling location is going to have a number of election inspectors working at each, and then a chief and an alternate chief there as well. And again, this was all incorporated in the 2024 budget, so there is no financial impact outside of what was already previously approved. So we're just cleaning up our pay scale to reflect what was accommodated for budgetary.
the employees that work like the central counter, they're considered the election inspectors for that?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
And then, do you have a chief inspector here too? or
We
not?
would, yep.
Okay.
Central count will have a chief inspector as well.
It seems low, just to me, but I don't know if you did comparable, same outside.
It is lower than, I would say, the area average. So my understanding is we generally get a pretty good response with poll workers in Ashwaubenon. We haven't been put into a position where we need to pay them more, but it is lower in relation to other area municipalities.
So Chris was okay with it and he could get
Chris
people in.
is the one that proposed this $1 an
Okay.
hour increase.
Greg, you sit on the W-2 of these people?
No, it's not taxable income.
Yes, it is.
Poll worker wages are not.
Yes, they are. I'll disagree with you on that.
Take it out. Tax.
I'm serious, it is, it's taxable.
Check unless that's a new law, we've never had.
We just went through tax training and poll worker was one of the things that.
Is that new this year
It is.
for 2024?
I don't know when it's in effect, but I thought it was in effect this year.
Is it because
We volunteered to be a poll worker, and I'm saying I'm not going to take any weight. You know, I'm just going to volunteer to do it.
Is it because of a threshold that they would make so much in a calendar year that they then have to report?
I don't know, I will look, I'll get you something on
The
it.
wages are or there aren't, there's no thresholds with wages like that. That would be like federal taxes if you're way up there, then it's a city.
Is there any issue if someone volunteers to be a poll worker?
My concern with the lower, right, that was my first thought too, that seemed kind of low.
Yeah.
Pay lifeguards more.
Yeah, it says a good
Which,
deal,
I don't know.
which is good, yeah.
But, you know, you go to the polling stations and it's a lot of retired people, obviously, and, you know, once these people pass through and don't want to do it anymore, you get a new generation of people coming up. Does the money become more important, and all of a sudden we're stuck having to try to find something to think about.
And what we can do is, you know, again, this was budgeted, this is requested by the clerk. I think we're comfortable from a staff perspective approving as recommended, but then we can certainly review, as we would annually anyway, this pay matrix and provide some comparables to what other municipalities are providing for their election inspectors and then present that information.
Yeah.
My guess is it is probably closer to that $15 to $18 an hour range.
Yeah. Just thought.
I didn't know they got paid. But that was,
They did. Well, we used to get paid pretty much peanuts, didn't they? Like a half day, it was, wasn't it that way, or full day, and you got $100 or something? I mean, it seemed like it wasn't an hourly before.
Yeah,
I'm wrong there.
I don't know how Ashwaubenon has done it, but other locations that I've worked at, either A, it's been strictly volunteer, it's been a stipend type of an arrangement, or it's been an hourly rate that has been very, very nominal, minimum wage nominal. So oftentimes when you're, oh, thanks for volunteering, and you kind of are, you're getting paid a little bit, but it's not a full wage.
Was that information only?
No, this would be requested action to approve the pay scale with the election inspectors included with the $2 an hour raise from the previous year.
I make a motion to recommend approval to the village board the 2024 hourly pay rates for the election inspectors.
second,
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. C, investment report. Great.
So just information for you to give you kind of summary of the year, our investment portfolio. The portfolio itself has not changed as far as we've not contributed any more dollars to it, with the cash contributions. But it is managed by Associated Trust, so there is, obviously they're managing the portfolio based on our investment policy and rules. But we had a nice bounce back year, a couple of years of you know, a lot of changes and valuations in the portfolio itself. But we came back up to almost 11% life rate of return on the life of the investment. So there's a general fund, which is kind of the governmental fund, and then there's the utility portion. So it's doing well. It'll have those times in the economy and the interest rates drop. There's a lag there just because you're locked in. Think of our bonding. So we do a 10-year issue. Those rates are locked in. As that comes offline, something new comes on at a higher or lower rate. Imagine our portfolio with many of those investments locked in there. So it's doing well. And so we just kind of leave it alone and kind of our rainy day fund. It's kind of our fund balance, if you will, right there, sitting in there. So it's investments.
So the general fund and utility funds, are they comparable in what the rules are for investments?
Yes.
Because they seem to.
Yeah, they don't
pretty much
have
the
their own, it's one investment policy, but it's two separate funds. Right? You never commingle these two utility funds, that type of business. So that's why they're separated.
That just seems fairly comparable in the way they go up and down. I figured.
Biggest swing seems to be in the unrealized appreciation and depreciation. Is that, you just explain that a little?
Sure.
bit?
So it's like I said, it's as portfolios change. So one comes off, one comes on, and then within that, you kind of look at it and give you the current value of a prior investment. So let's say we locked in 2015, and a 10-year bond, right? And so in 2020, it kind of revalues it and says, well, that's what you would have got then, and you're locked into it. But if today we redid this is what it would be worth, and then that's what that line is doing. So it's a weird, what it's doing is telling the investor, us, this is, if you closed everything out today, this is what it would be worth.
The market is the market.
It's a market rate, and we have to, from the accounting rules, we have to adjust to the market rate. So it's not real cash. It's
Right,
not-
I know, yeah.
It's just a valuation, and so but at the end of the day, it comes in, and so it's so hard to pick and choose there's so much of the investment, so that's what that's doing. Same with the change in accrued income, non-cash activity. Those are all these weird little things within there that are having impacts to what's happening in the investment portfolio. The overall, the interest income, that line item, that is the true interest that we've gained in the portfolio itself. So there's always interest income flowing through. It's just these weird valuation changes that make it look good or bad. So over the life of that investment, that 10-year investment, I said it'll end where it said it's going to end. Just they have to do the market value along the way.
And you really don't have any leeway into, okay, that number instead of that number.
No, they
Pretty
provide
much market driven.
market driven. Okay. And so that'll be all those financials that I'll get from Associated Trust during our audit. That's a good amount of time those auditors will spend on that, reviewing it. Then in the ACFR, the final report, it'll list out all these investments by their rating, by their terms, and you have access to all that information. So really, in the notes section is a cash investment section that will break this all down. So when you hire someone like Associated Trust, you kind of just step back, they follow your policies, and it's kind of driven by them. Otherwise, it'd be a full-time person. You'd have to have someone with the knowledge and skill to do that on staff. Yeah, more or less.
Associated does it for you.
That may be part of our, it likely will be part of the next spring when we do the bank RFP. Last time we also did the investment portfolio RFP. It's a little bit trickier because at the time we didn't have this. So now how do you transfer that out? I don't know how that would work. I don't know if it's worth exploring. I have no issues, their investment house versus someone else. It's cool investments, and we're a very, very low risk investment type. So we're not dealing in weird futures and markets. It's all pretty much governmental investment, bonding like we do. That's pretty much what most of this is.
All right, any other questions? We'll move on to general fund update.
So I just wanted to give you an update where we're at. We're pretty much flowing the way that, at the budget time we talked that we would end the year. Still have quite a bit of work to do to finalize the year end. There's still some numbers that aren't in place that could have an impact on the general fund. For example, we have to record healthcare costs that are incurred costs that come in 2024, but they actually are for service dates in 2023. So those final UMR, our insurance provider, will provide final reports on that. And they want to look as far into the future. The auditors want to go to mid-February to get the most accurate data. So that takes a while. That number could swing. It could be $100,000 impact. It can be a big number, but as a whole, for the most part, we're doing well. We should end the year with some surplus. We typically do, but we did talk at the budget time that part of the budget process was thinking forward. We're going to have employee retirement, so it's going to be a big one. We already know of 5 this year, and those numbers add up quickly. And then we know that the village building fund needs to get replenished for a lot of the work we've been doing, and then some future planning that we've got in our long-term capital plan. And then also the possibility of continuing to help the road reconstruction fund. We'd have liked to put a little more levy dollars, but we're building that balance up because like 2 years ago, our normal mill pay went from 700 to over $1 million for the summer. It's just jump. We don't want to get behind on the roads, so we want to, there's some there we may, just to buy some time, bridge that gap to, we've been adding 25 to 50,000 of levy every year, but we're only at 775,000 and the bids will still come in around $1 million, so we're just trying to work to get there. In the meantime, we've done things like, can we pay some of those roads with TIF? Fortunately, some of our Morris Avenue, the bids came in higher. They came in lower than we anticipated, so we had some excess money there that we could use for some of the roads, because that's what the bonding was for. So those are the areas, if we have some surplus, we'd like to direct those funds. That'll come to the board with a resolution at some point prior to the final audit, probably in late February, when we have a real good feel for where we're at with numbers. For the most part, projects are done, so I pretty much have all the numbers. There's still there'll always be something unexpected that comes along the way. All in all, we're doing well. It's not like we're struggling. We're not struggling at all.
All right, good.
Ryan, do you have any feel for construction costs for roads this year? Anything that you've heard, or it's gone up or down, or?
Well, it depends on what items you're speaking of.
Asphalt.
Asphalt will be pretty close to where it's at. Petroleum products are holding pretty steady. There is still a small increase in sewer costs, utility costs, but nothing that's abnormal. That's kind of just following CPI. I mean, it's 3-5%. And that's out of the normal.
So if we did the road work this year, it may be comparable to the 1 million that we had this year.
Correct.
Thinking.
For mill pay.
From okay.
Yes. Yep.
And we budgeted, so.
That fund it'll have a carryover balance, and then plus if we potentially add here, so we budgeted 775, I believe, in levy.
We levy
Okay.
X number of dollars, there's remaining fund balance. Sometimes
Okay.
we shuffle more fund balance.
I'd like to try to keep some fund balance growing even in 2025. Closer and closer to that. And then I think we're getting closer and closer to catching up with our PASER ratings, and for a couple of years we couldn't do what we wanted because the numbers we didn't have the cash.
All right, anything else? All right, thanks, Greg. Items for next agenda, anybody?
The only thing I'll add is we may, I don't know if we will or not, but we're in the process of working towards filling 4 positions at the present. So we have a number of positions that are incorporated in the budget, and due to a pending retirement, we're replacing another position that we've had. So one of those positions is our HR generalist role. So we're hoping that our interviews go well over the next few weeks for that position, and we're able to announce a candidate for the introduction to that person at the February meeting. It's going to be a tight time frame. It's not going to do it. It's definitely going to March. As of right now, we have 121 applications for that position. Of those 121, 70 people met the qualifications of education, years of experience, and certification. So we have really good tool to Yep, actually we have. So engineering technician is the other position. It's going to sound different from the HR position. We have 15 applicants for that. Trust me, that's really good. Of those 15, 8 are solid candidates that meet all of the minimum qualifications. So that's really good. That's usually a typically very difficult position to fill, so we're really happy for that. Interviews for all of these positions are happening now, or what do you think next week? The other position is Deputy Clerk 1. That was similar to the HR position. I think we have closer to 130 or 140 applicants for that role. Terry's been busy setting up interviews the last 3 days, so we have interviews for that position next week. Very good candidate pool. Excuse me. And then the other position we're wrapping up interviews with presently is the Assistant Zoning Administrator, Code Enforcement Officer. We had 30 applications, all of which were qualified for the role. We have some very, very good candidates on the interview, and working through an offer as we speak. So, yeah,
How about the building inspector?
Building inspector is a carryover from 2023, and we have one interview scheduled. We've had some hits with some near misses, let's call it. So that one's been a little bit more difficult to. So if you want to get into the field of plumbing inspection, do it. Because we need you. So we'll as soon as one person that meets some of our qualifications walks in the door with an application, we'll set up an interview. Public safety, ongoing recruitments usually every year, so, or throughout the year, I should say. At present, we have an open recruitment going on. I think they're going to be interviewing on February 9th. Does that sound about right, Terry?
10th, it's on a Saturday.
Right now, I think we have, last I looked, about 25 applicants for that position. Yeah, you used to be able to get like 100 to 200,
yeah,
so.
exactly, yeah, but still.
When they heard about the HR position and the deputy clerk, they're a little bit disappointed. Yeah, at first, I think they were really excited about the 25, then they heard the other. That's a tough job. The other positions that were incorporated in the budget, the IT position, I'm trying to think of what was the positions we had. IT network specialist. Those we are holding off on second. So it's all gonna kind of depend on the position and what kind of the department head wants to do. So as an example, the engineering qualified candidates. So the deputy clerk I believe 4. The HR position we're doing a little bit differently, just because we have so many highly qualified candidates. We're going to bring in 10 for a pre-screen, and then we'll whittle it down and have more of a traditional interview. The HR position needs to really, yeah, there's some skill there, but it really needs to be a right fit because they're going to be interacting with every person in the organization. So we're really kind of conscientious on making sure that we fit. The code enforcement officer, I think we did 7. We did 7 on that one. I believe it was 7. We had 8 scheduled, I think, or maybe 7 scheduled and 1 backed out prior to the interviews. So 6 were scheduled. That one is what we consider to be similar to the HR role. Very people oriented. You're going to be having a lot of interaction with the general public. We want to make sure that it's not like yeah, you have to enforce code, but you have to work with people to get compliance. So Jim, our former code enforcement officer, did an exceptional job working with people. Code enforcement's an interesting thing. You can have some pretty tough cookies in that realm. We want to make sure that you're a good person. We do.
Someone had asked me about it.
Allison.
Yeah, Allison resigned off there.
That's the story you want to go with.
So you have, someone had asked
I'm
me.
not gonna ask
So you have those skills, so.
Yeah, if anybody is interested in serving on the committee, they can submit even if it's not there, and Terry maintains a list of applicants, and then when they come up, then they're reviewing them. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, so take a motion to adjourn.
So
All right, motion and second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, we are adjourned.